Squishy Bee here with a breaking news report on December 18th, 2020. This article is titled Not Forced but Compulsory. Brazil's Supreme Court paves way for sanctions for refusing COVID-19 jab. Brazil's top court has ruled that citizens can be legally required to take a coronavirus vaccine, laying the ground for sanctions for those who refuse the jab, despite vehement objections from President Jair Bolsonaro. The federal Supreme Court ruled 10-1 on Thursday that governments at all levels may set out penalties for anyone who declines to take a vaccine, allowing them to bar citizens from certain public places, among other measures, like your job, other public places. While Justice Ricardo Lewandowski noted in his majority opinion that forced immunizations would be unconstitutional, he said, local, state, and federal officials could impose restrictions on the unvaccinated. Unbelievable. Each Brazilian will have the obligation to be vaccinated, which does not mean that they may be forced to take the vaccine, said Justice Alexandra de Morales, except that they can make your life unlivable unless you do, by preventing you from buying or selling or getting food or working your job or sending your children to school. It all starts somewhere, and this is just a way that they are controlling people. Compulsory does not mean that. Compulsory means that any non-compliance will lead to a sanction. Non-compliance. Okay. The court has determined in a separate case on Thursday that parents are required to vaccinate their children, rejecting an appeal that argued for exemptions based on philosophical, religious, and moral convictions. So, again, there is no more religious freedom. And God told us that this was coming. While Bolsonaro has pledged to make the coronavirus vaccine available to the public once Brazilian regulators give a green light to one of the inoculations under consideration, he has vocally rejected the mandatory vaccination drive, suggesting citizens could be placed under house arrest for turning down the jab, among other restrictions. Unbelievable! What is happening? Nobody can force anybody to take the vaccine. We're dealing with lives. Where is our freedom? He said following the court's decision, later adding, "What did the court decide? If you do not get a vaccine, I, the President of the Republic, governors, mayors, can impose restrictive measures on you." At least somebody is looking out for people here. I wish we had more people like this guy. You can't get a passport. You can't get a driver's license. You can be put under house arrest. Look how beautiful it is. House arrest. I love this guy. The president also insisted he would not be vaccinated himself, arguing that he already has immunity to the virus after contracting it earlier this year, while also pointing to potential adverse side effects and the lack of legal liability for vaccine developers. Exactly. Keep this in mind, that if you do have a problem, and people are already immediately having problems, you cannot go after the company that made these medications. You can't. There in the Pfizer contract, it is quite clear that they are not responsible for any side effects. If you become an alligator, it's your problem, he said. What is worse is tampering with people's immune systems. That's true. The disease itself was tampering with people's immune system. I mean, you can tell that this thing was a weapon from the beginning. The fact that they added something like AIDS into this thing so that it would immediately disrupt your immune system so that you couldn't fight it off is very telling. And evil! How evil is that? But fortunately, God saw to it in advance and gave us really good immune systems, even though they just keep trying to destroy them. Okay, by giving us things that ruin our immune system or give us these horrible autoimmune things. It's crazy. With no vaccine currently approved in the country, Brazilian authorities have yet to set a date for a mass rollout. The most recent government vaccination plan, published last week, was met with skepticism after it suggested that less than a quarter of the country's population of 210 million would receive doses in the initial immunization drive. However, The recent polling suggests that some 22% of Brazilians are opposed to taking the vaccine. It's unclear how many skeptics would follow the president's lead and outright refuse a jab, thereby risking the penalties authorized by Thursday's court ruling. Well, it's good to know at least 22% of people in Brazil have some brains and are using them to think for themselves and are on to these people for this nonsense. I hope that, that number increases worldwide, because people need to wise up to this stuff. And I'll tell you this, in case you didn't hear this in a previous video, his father. So the reason why I am so against vaccines personally is for two reasons. One, when I was 18 and I was just starting college, they forced me to take an MMR booster. And if I didn't, they were going to deschedule me. And I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. So I took it and had a horrible reaction. And my life kind of crumbled from that point forward with respect to my health. I was in great shape. I was about to go into the military. And then I came down with this horrible autoimmune disease complex where I just continue to get new autoimmune diseases. And this is literally catching up with me at this point, and I'm dying from this thing. And the other reason is because my husband's father, when my husband was young, he and his sister were given vaccines directly from his dad because his dad was an insider in this line of work. He was a head of hospital and had some insider knowledge of this stuff, and he made them promise to never get a vaccine from anyone unless he gave it to them directly, and that when they got older, they were to promise never to give these to their kids because it wasn't safe. Why? We never really found out, whether it was because of, whether he was giving them something different. I don't know, because he did give them the vaccines, but he gave them something himself. No one ever was, even nurses that worked for him were not allowed to do it. He himself gave it to them. And I'm wondering if it was that he gave them ones that were the preservatives, because a lot of the problems come from that. They put stuff in the preservatives that's absolutely horrific stuff people should not have in their body. Or if he was giving them something completely different, I don't know. All I know is my husband is extremely healthy. It never catches anything. It doesn't matter who is around him, how many people are sick, he never catches anything. He's like a machine that just keeps going. And he is so energetic. I wish I could bottle it and sell it. I would be a millionaire, because nothing slows this guy down. He can do really crazy, obscene stuff physically that I don't understand how he can do. He's this skinny little guy, but he can lift like crazy amounts of stuff, never ending. I don't know. Anyway, maybe just a coincidence. Probably is. But my point was not that. My point was that he was warned off by somebody on the inside, and so I wouldn't recommend it. But for you, you should at least research it, at least look at the data on this stuff, because it's really compelling stuff. And then the idea that the people that make this stuff are not liable for anything that could go wrong is insane. There's no way you could talk me into, you couldn't pay me, no matter what. If they try to tell you you can't get your stimulus check unless you take this, or whatever they try to bribe you into or scare you into, because scaring people is their biggest tactic with their fear as a weapon to control you. That is the oldest trick in the book. Don't do it. God warned us about it and told us not to live in fear. And that is some very good advice. So anyway, if I see anything else on this, I will bring it to you. In the meantime, stay healthy and stay safe. God bless you. And I will be seeing you. Bye-bye.